When you enter reunion, you are brimming with excitement and joy and think, bam, reunion has happened and the event is done. But that is so far from the case. There is a long road ahead that changes as time passes. Reunion is not a one-time event, and it ebbs and flows as the reunion progresses. Before I get into discussing that journey, let me introduce myself for those that may be new here. My name is Kat Davald. I'm a 49-year-old birth mom, and I've been in reunion for 5 years with my 33-year-old daughter. So I wanted to make this video because I see so many people in my birth mom group who enter reunion, and now that I'm in year 5, I see how they're excited and they think, okay, bam, I've reunited, and they think that it's a walk in the park from there. So a lot of people don't realize what a journey the reunion side of it is. And I'm only in year 5. I've still got the rest of my life to go. Who knows what may happen from here? But I wanted to make this video so that other people can understand how much of a journey and that it doesn't stop. You're forever going to be in reunion. It's not a one-time event. Your first meeting is just that. It's your first meeting. And it goes from there. And there are stages to the reunion. I made a series of videos about the stages of reunion, so you can check that out here, or I've also linked it below. But after all the initial stages that you go through, reunion starts to ebb and flow. Things change. You change as a person. The adoptee probably will change as a person because it's life-changing. Reunion, you're meeting a stranger that is family. You're related by blood, but they're strangers. And as a birth mom, you remember, some people block it out as part of their trauma, but for the most part, you remember that you had a child. That adoptee was more than likely a baby, so they wouldn't really remember anything. So it's life-changing. Reunion is life-changing. It's not a one-time event that just happens and then you walk off into the sunset. Your thoughts change. Your feelings change. Your thoughts about adoption changes. Your thoughts about everything changes. Your feelings about adoption changes because you start to learn and you start to see the other person and how adoption has or has not affected them, and you see other people and how it has or has not affected them. Everybody in your family is affected by adoption in some way, regardless if they want to have a relationship with the adoptee or if they had a hand in the adoption as well. Reunion is going to affect them in some type of way because it affects you, the birth mom. And if those are your relatives, then obviously it's going to affect them as well. Your wants and your desires change. Your needs change. There's so many things that going along in the last 5 years have changed for me. And some of those things changed after a couple years and have now fallen away because they're no longer necessary to, not to my existence, but to my healing and into me as a person. I've utilized what I needed from that change or from that need or from that desire, and I can let it go now. Just as anything in our life that we've gone through, my needs to be with friends constantly in my 20s and wanting to go out and go to the clubs and my wants and desires to do all that, those are gone. I'm almost 50 now, and so I like silence. I like solitude. I like to stay at home. I like to do little things, So just as things change in your life as a regular person, things are going to change. Your wants, needs, desires are going to change as you go through reunion as well. And the same thing for the adoptee. So you're constantly doing a dance, making sure that each other is happy. Because let's face it, people change. That's how life goes. And after a few years, after that whole initial honeymoon is over and all the excitement and the joy and everything, you move into a comfort zone. You become comfortable. Like I would say me and my daughter are comfortable with each other now, where we have a good idea of who each other are. And that comfort zone may come with more visits and more closeness, or it may come with less visits and less closeness, because now you have gotten the information that you needed, the adoptee got the information that they needed, or maybe it's just, life became a little bit busier, or whatever. Maybe things change because life is changing. And like I said earlier, you begin to know each other. And maybe those changes are happening because you end up not really liking the person you find on the other side, and vice versa. Maybe the adoptee is like, I'm happy to meet this person, but maybe we're not a good fit for each other. Maybe we don't mesh. Maybe I just don't like the person that they are for whatever reason. I'm not going to give reasons today, but things like that happen. Friendships fall apart. This is a relationship like any other, and you have to work on it, and both parties are going to have to want to work on it. So right now, I'm in year 5 of my reunion relationship. Year 5 started in September and we'll be going into year 6 in September of this year, 2024. So the exhilarating newness has worn off. It's been worn off for a couple years. We are now in a comfort zone. I have a good idea of who my daughter is, and I think my daughter has a good idea of who I am. And there is definitely that comfort zone between us. However, for me, there is a deeper sadness because I can see that our relationship is finite. There is a certain limitation to how far it will go, at least for now. I don't know what will happen in the future, but I can tell that our relationship has stagnated in a way, that we are not continuing to grow in a relationship that is flourishing. We are at a point where we are kind of just at a lull. We still talk every day, and we meet for lunch still and everything. We just went to Hungry last year, so it's not a bad place, but it is a place where there are limits and boundaries, and there is no going forward from that at this point in time. And maybe one day it'll change. Maybe something will happen on either one of our ends where it will start progressing again. Something will happen. Maybe we'll become much closer than ever before. Or maybe we'll drift farther apart. Nobody knows. You don't know what's going to happen in reunion. And honestly, don't listen to people who have not experienced it, okay? Society and people who have not given up a child for reunion, or if they're an adoptee, they have not reunited, you cannot listen to what other people say because they haven't lived it. I can give you my experience for the first 5 years. I don't know what's going to happen At year 10, at year 20, at year 30, 40. I don't know, I'd be 90 then, so I don't know. But you know what I'm saying. I can't give you an idea of what reunion may look like there because I haven't lived it yet. But I can give you an idea of how it may turn out in the first 5 years because I have done that. Now let me give you an example. One of my friends said to me, and now this was early on, I had expressed to her what a difficult time I was having and how I was sad about, you know, not about reunion, just about adoption itself, and, you know, that our relationship was severed by adoption and it was changed by adoption. You know, so I was just basically sad. So I mentioned this to one of my friends and she said, "Why? You have her back now." And first of all, that bothers me so much because number one, she's not an inanimate object that I lost. You know, she's not a ball that rolled underneath the car and I have it back now. You know, she's a person and she has her own identity. The other thing is it's not that simple. It's not, reunion is not simple. There's nothing simple about it. Relationships in general aren't that simple. And especially one that's affected by adoption, it's even more complex than just any other relationship. And lastly, triggers may creep up and set you back to a place where you don't want to go. It happens all the time for me in reunion. This meme right here really spoke to me the other day. It reads, "As for grief, you'll see that it comes in waves. You never know what's going to trigger the grief. It might be a song, a picture, a street intersection, the smell of a cup of coffee. It can be just about anything. And then the wave comes crashing in, but between the waves, there is life." And I cannot tell you how much truth there is to this meme. It takes a lot of work to overcome triggers. And it takes a lot of work to see them coming too. And it takes even more work to not let them affect your relationship. But honestly, there is life between those waves. Not every day is a deep, dark hole for me. But there are those days, and there are those weeks. There aren't months anymore, but there are some really tough days. But now I can see the triggers coming, and I sit with a lot of stuff before acting on it or reacting to it. You know, and honestly, this meme reminds me of some issues that I faced the other day. I was struggling with my feelings, and I just wanted to tell my daughter how I felt about certain things. It wasn't things that I really should have shared with her, but I sat with my feelings instead of saying something to her. And I didn't tell her because it's not her burden, it's mine. I also don't want my feelings to hurt our relationship. I can honestly say I'm scared of that happening. And is it people pleasing? Yeah, it probably is. But I'm willing to do that because I would like to keep a relationship with my daughter. And I don't want to hurt her just because I want to tell her how I feel. And sometimes you don't have to, but you may want to also bite your tongue so that you can keep your relationship with your child going. It's not easy. It's a decision that you have to make. What is more important to you? Your boundaries or a relationship with your child? I'm not saying my daughter is disrespectful to me. I'm not saying she's hurtful. But like I said before, there is a limit to our relationship, and that is what bothers me. And I have to deal with it. If I don't deal with it and I say I want more, then I run the risk of ending our relationship because she probably can't give me more. So I sat with all of this and I thought about all this. And a couple of days later, the trigger was gone, the feelings were gone, everything passed through me. And I went back to realizing that this is how it has to be if I want to continue a relationship with my daughter. I need to grin and bear it. And that's it. And I know it's going to happen again. It's going to come back again. And I sure hope that every time it comes back that I do sit with those feelings and I don't act on them. Because it's not her fault. It's not her fault that she has limits and boundaries. What I want is generally a want. It's not a need. So I have to honor what she needs. Will it ever get better? I honestly don't know. For me, it probably won't. Just because I've lived this life for almost 50 years now, and I'm really starting to understand who I am. So in closing, all of these things make up the journey of reunion. But it isn't until after all the giddy happiness wears off and you start living daily life that you begin to realize the magnitude of emotions you may have. Regardless if something or someone should or shouldn't affect you, many times it still does. Things people say and things people do will always have an effect on me, and until I work through those things, it may or may not have a positive effect on my reunion. I try to ignore many things, but sometimes I admit it's hard to do. Being aware that reunion is a journey and a relationship that needs a lot of work is the first step on a long road. Reunion is hard. There is no doubt about that. This meme from Ferrera Swan, an adoptee rights and adoptee reform activist, speaks volumes. I'm going to leave you with this and say goodbye. See you next time.